New Orleans, Louisiana. Mardi Gras. A time of beads, boobs, and booze. A fun time where the worst you expect to happen is to get blackout drunk and wake up naked in a field somewhere. Ben thinks differently. He's not digging the Mardi Gras vibe, and he wants something different, something scary. He signs up for a haunted swamp tour with his best bud Marcus, but the tour goes off the rails when something begins hunting his tour group in the deep, dark Louisiana bayou. Now, Ben, Marcus, local girl Mary Beth, and a host of others must escape the swamps that belong to the vengeful spirit of Victor Crowley in the 2006 slasher cult classic Hatchet. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And I am Josh Allred.
And you are listening to Filmgazm. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to episode 109 of the Filmgazm podcast. I'm joined today by special guest host Josh Allred, who is here to help me dissect this slasher flick. Thanks for joining me today, Josh.
Yeah, man. I'm glad I could be here for this. I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Other than the time I was here to talk about Toxic Avenger, which if you could have seen me, glad I'm sitting down. Huge boner for this movie. I love it.
Killer. And for those of you who are wondering why Austin is not joining us today, it's mostly for technical reasons. We've been doing the show via Zoom for quite some time now, and we've come to realize that juggling more than two people on a Zoom call is a real pain in the ass. There's frequent internet dropouts. It's hard to judge when someone else is going to say something, and the show suffers because of it. So from now on, it is only ever going to be two people hosting all of our shows, and we'll keep having special guest hosts from time to time to keep things fresh, keep you guys on your toes. So, yeah, format's going to change a little bit from here on out, but still going to be awesome. Before we get started, I do have one item of interest on the Rewind, where we dig into past episodes to try and find more pay dirt. And this one updates episode 32 on the Stephen King cult classic Maximum Overdrive. Stephen King's son, best-selling author Joe Hill, has expressed interest in writing and directing a remake of Maximum Overdrive in the near future. He said in his version, it wouldn't be a comet that brings electronics to life. It would be a virus that infects self-driving car technology and sets them off. What do you think about that? Joe Hill doing Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, no, I love it. I actually listened to that episode that he was talking about it, Mick Garris's Postmortem. I'm a huge Mick Garris fan to begin with. And when they went on hiatus, I was a little bummed. And the fact that he came right out the box with Joe Hill was fantastic. I wasn't too familiar with a lot of Joe Hill stuff. I've seen Horns. I've started to watch Lock and Key. I didn't finish it, but Caleb put me onto the graphic novel, and I was really impressed with it. I'm really impressed with his output. It's crazy that he's 48 years old. It makes me feel like I'm fucking pushing up there. But it was the way the question was phrased is Mick asked him, would you ever consider directing? And if so, what would it be? And he was like, just right off the cuff, that's what he said. It's like, I would really like to do a remake of Maximum Overdrive. When I heard that, I was like, holy shit, like he really just wants to like go total full circle and go after one of his dad's stories. And I think it's really clever, his idea. It makes it a lot more plausible as to why the vehicles would be attacking people. And it's very much a very like poignant take on it, for sure. I mean, I would be down for it. I mean, with his writing and his stories, I think he could do really well with it.
For sure. I've read his short story collection Full Throttle, and I thought that was really good. He had some really cool stories in there. He's definitely got his dad's talent for storytelling, and I'd love to see him give that a shot. I think it would be really cool to adapt that story, which is already just mind-blowingly wacky, to a modern audience. And who knows, hell, maybe AC/DC could do a new song for it.
I mean, why not? They're already, they're still putting out records, which is that blows me away.
Yeah, God knows we need something good this year.
Yeah, right.
Ugh,
I actually saw AC/DC live with my dad one time. It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. It was crazy seeing.
Hell yeah, man! They were my first concert too.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the first concert I saw,
Yeah.
but it was like the first like big, like really huge famous band. And I mean, they hit all the high notes. I think my favorite part was when they did a whole lot of Rosie, and it was during Black Ice when they did it. So they had this whole thing with the train coming through, and
Yeah.
they had this giant inflatable fat chick riding on the train. It's awesome. Awesome.
I saw that same tour. Yeah, I was in the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. I was 13 years old. It was my first concert. I was blown away. Big ass train comes out of the stage. Rock and Roll Train starts playing. Big inflatable horror. I couldn't fucking believe it. The cannons at the end for those about to rock. I was like, this is the best damn show I've ever. It set the bar for me for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the only other times I've had that much fun at a show is when I've seen Guar. It's hands down, like I've seen them like 5-6 times, and it's still one of the best times.
My coolest show, I think, to date, AC/DC was up there, but seeing Paul McCartney live was a weird experience because I had this moment, like he opened with A Hard Day's Night, and I had a realization of like, I'm at a fucking Beatles concert right now. It's just, I couldn't believe it. It was like a 3-hour show of just Wing stuff and solo stuff and Beatles stuff, and it was just a beautiful, amazing show. Ah, I miss live music so much.
Right.
So, tell me about your first time with Hatchet. What did you think of it initially?
Oh no, I loved it right off the bat.
I figured.
I think the first time I saw it was I rented it from Blockbuster, I think, because I had missed it in the theater, and I was kicking myself that I had missed it, and I was like, "Fuck! How could I miss something like this?" Because it had this reputation where, like, you know, it had a lot of its power came from word of mouth, being that it was an independent movie, didn't have a lot of backing. The One of the things that really broke it out was Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool. He watched it, gave it a really good review, and from there it just kind of took off. So I definitely caught it at Blockbuster, and I watched Hatchet 2 when it came out, which that has a very interesting story behind it. It was released unrated, and it only lasted 48 hours before the MPAA caught wind of it, saw it, and was like, "You can't put that in the theater, what the fuck?" and yanked it, just gone.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty special to see something like that. And I mean, I own all of the Hatchet movies. I bought them straight from Adam Green. So yeah, shout out Aries-Scope, go buy their stuff. I also have a shooting script for Hatchet, so it's like the version that they shot, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to say that I love these movies and I really enjoy Adam Green as a filmmaker is an understatement, obviously.
I think this was the first movie you reviewed for the website.
It sure was. I kept trying to think about like what would be a good way to serve as like an introduction for me, my personality, and try to at the same time like set myself apart from you and Austin and Caleb. And definitely I was like, you know what? I saw that nobody had put a review up for it. I made Caleb watch it, and he was like, "Oh wow," and yeah, and I was like, "Fuck it, that's going to be the first one I write." And I also had that whole trauma article that I wrote, was kind of in the back, and I was like, you know, I wanted to show like both sides to where I could like just do a review and talk about something, but also get like really deep and kind of flex my, you know, use my damn degree for something instead of just fucking eye candy on the wall. But yeah, I was kind of nervous, which is kind of funny. You know, you've talked to me a few times now, and you hear me say that, you're like, what? You what? But yeah, no, I was legitimately nervous because I hadn't written anything about movies in a while. And, I was just kind of like, hey, Caleb, you think, uh, you think Connor would like this? He's like, I don't know, man. I'll send it to him. I mean, I like it, I hope he'll put you on there and you can start writing for the site. That'd be great. And I'm just like, fuck. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know if he's gonna like it or not. And, yeah, where I am. So I must have done something right.
That's great. It's funny because you're not the only one who's like had that kind of reaction to being a part of this thing. It's weird to me. It's just like I love movies and I want more people who love movies to be a part of this, but other people are like, I don't know. And it's weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've never had to like audition for this. I just don't get it.
Well, so for me, it was like, you guys have been doing it for a few years at that point, and I hadn't even read like, any of the books that you wrote. I've only started one of them. But so this is where I come from, a place of like mutual respect, because like I can I really admire the fact that you have enough patience to write a novel, let alone three. I can fucking barely hold an idea together for 30 pages before I'm just like, fuck, I gotta figure out how to end this. I can't keep going. I just don't have the attention span for it. So I can appreciate that. And I definitely have enough respect for you because you published your own shit. And that's a pretty it's a very ballsy but also a very confident move in a way, because you're like, fuck it. If nobody else is gonna buy this thing and put it out, I'll fucking put it out. So whether you think about it or not, you definitely have done something that most people either A, have only dreamt about, B, dreamt about it, didn't have the balls to do it, and three, were just too scared. And I'm kind of like flirted with all three of those at one point or another. And I just finally was like, I have to keep doing this, because the way I am with writing, I don't know how you are. I I'm like, it's like a compulsion. Like I have to do it because I've always got something going on in my head. I've always got ideas. And when it comes to movies, I'll fucking talk your head off. If you met me at a party or something, probably won't say more than 5 words to you. But if you get me on a subject that I like, I'm gonna gab like a little schoolgirl. So yeah, definitely was definitely impressed with what you and Caleb had done. Like I told you before, I was jealous. I was like, these fuckers doing the exact same thing that I've wanted to do. So I was just glad you wanted to put my shit up there, and I'm thankful, for everyone that you do put up there. So it's great.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you on the team. It really is. You bring a really cool perspective to horror that Austin and I just don't have, because we're fairly like, especially Austin, he's fairly new to this whole genre. And I'm still, there's still a lot of classics I haven't tackled yet, and a lot of like indie stuff I've never even fucking heard of. So you seem to be like in the zone with all this shit. So it's cool that you have something to say about all of it. And yeah, definitely happy to have you aboard, man.
It's good stuff. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with this shit. So it's one of these things where I I was just always involved with it. Like I was always watching them. I read Fangoria when I was a kid. I used to, when my mom would go to the grocery store, she knew where to find me. I would always be with the comic books, always trying to find, books or whatever. That was just my thing. And I was definitely like the weird kid growing up. So I didn't have a lot of friends. So that's what I would do. I would just watch movies. And it got to a point where, horror movies especially, it was just this whole like taboo thing about it. It's like, they're always on at night. You gotta kind of like sneak around and have fun with them. And the older I got, I started to make friends who liked them too. And it was like, okay, now I'm part of a group that this is our thing. I mean, college, yeah, I partied and did all that stuff, but it was mostly about hanging with my buddies and watching wild ass movies.
Killer. That's exactly what we do. That's what the Filmgazm team does. We just we watch the weird shit, we talk about it. And on the Oscar Sunday side of it, we watch the classics and talk about it. I just, I want to celebrate all facets of movie culture on this podcast. And I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's enough room for everybody to kind of have a little piece of this. My friend Ty, he put me onto a couple of podcasts that kind of like, it tickles like the scholarly film nerd in me to kind of listen to somebody talk a lot about horror movies, but in a more like academic manner and give like historical context and things like that. And I can jive with that too. At the same time, I'm a sucker for, the Joe Bob 3 Bs, blood, boobs, and beasts. Like, just more of that, please.
Hell yeah, man. Like, for example, Hatchet. I had only heard of this movie before we decided to do it. And we're doing this because this was Caleb's personal pick. So this is for him, hopefully when he eventually gets to listen to this. Yeah, so I'd only heard of it after you did your review, and I was like, it sounds interesting, but I don't know if I'll ever watch it. And then Caleb picked it, and I'm like, well, fuck, now I have to watch it. And I was expecting this to be just a disaster. And as soon as Manson's This Is the New Shit picked up, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this. Yeah, loved it. I really liked this. So Hatchet was written and directed by Adam Green. He would also direct the next 3 films in the Hatchet franchise, as well as 2010's Frozen, not to be confused with the Disney musical of the same name. This is about people who are literally freezing to death. And I remember reading somewhere, some movie theater somewhere got their reels mixed up and put that movie on in place of Disney's Frozen at some Midwest movie theater. And I would love to have been a fly on the wall when that happened.
Oh yeah, totally. That would have been fucking wonderful. Yeah, there's definitely a scene in there that you could make jokes about, letting go. Trust me.
Adam Green also wrote a segment of the 2017 Friday the 13th video game, the Tommy Jarvis Files, I think it was called. I haven't gotten to play that yet.
I like it. I have it. It's a shame that the whole lawsuit is kind of it pretty much killed the game as far as like new content goes. I don't know that even if they settled everything, that the developer would even be able to make new stuff without having to restructure agreements and payments and all this other shit. So bravo, Sean Cunningham, you fucker. But yeah, I mean, the game's fun. I mean, you get to play as all the different Jasons. Kane Hodder actually did the mocap for all of the Jasons. He even, because he is very aware of his place in the whole thing, he watched the other movies to see how the other guys played Jason, and he mimicked their moves.
That's an impressive commitment.
Yeah, pretty. It's pretty deep. And Shelley's in there. Good old Larry Zerner, who is continuing to give us updates on the whole trial process. So, which is actually like so perfect that the guy who was in one of the Friday the 13th movies is a copyright lawyer, which is in the wheelhouse of the whole thing that's going on with this lawsuit. Like, you couldn't write it.
I can't wait till we finally do Friday the 13th so I can finally look into all that shit and just unpack this insane lawsuit.
It's a fucking shitstorm, let me tell you.
So I've heard. It's crazy. The film stars Kane Hodder as Victor Crowley. As we just said, Hodder is a horror icon known primarily for playing Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, Part 7, Part 8, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X. He would also play Victor Crowley in all 3 Hatchet sequels. And I'm curious what you think about this. What do you think it is about Kane Hodder's Jason specifically that makes him so beloved by horror fans?
I think continuity has a lot to do with it. He was able to kind of like make Jason his own, for lack of a better phrase. And he really tried to I think he tried to understand him. He tried to like make him, an actual character instead of just like a thing, because there was a revolving door through the first 6 movies. It was just, well, not the first 6, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Through the subsequent movies, it was always a different guy. I think the only other one that I liked as far as like a physical presence and what they did was Derek Mears in the remake. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of the remake, for a lot of reasons, I'm not going to go into that right now because we're not talking about that. But for me, Kane Hodder will always be Jason. And I mean, if you just hear the guy talk about playing Jason and what it means to him and like all of that stuff, the fact that he played Jason and then he got to be Victor Crowley, like there's not too many actors, stuntmen that can have that claim to fame and be such a stalwart in the industry.
True. Very true. It's a shame that Kane Hodder had to get like the shittiest Friday the 13th movies, though.
Okay, I will say this.
Yeah.
They're not boring. I'll put it like that.
Fair enough.
The worst of the bunch for me is probably Jason Takes Manhattan, because it's like the biggest letdown in terms of, you're selling me Jason massacring people in New York City and he's in there for all of 5 minutes. You fuckers.
Dude, for me, it never got worse than Jason Goes to Hell. I hate that. That's the only one I've ever given on the website. I hated that movie so much.
So I wasn't, I don't know. It probably came along at a time where I was like so excited about it that I got really, really happy when it came out. I fucking watched it on pay-per-view. That's how old I am. So I have the box set. I showed you guys when it came in. I got the box set and I watched it, and then I watched the director talk about it. He's a huge fan. He grew up with Sean Cunningham's son. So
Wow.
like that was his connection in there. And that was, I can't remember the movie. Oh, he directed My Boyfriend's Back. And so Sean Cunningham, I guess, produced that or something like that. And, Adam Marcus told him, like, you owe me one, dude. I want to make a Friday the 13th movie. So as usual, there's a whole reason why things happen the way they happen. And it kind of like, he had to work with the limitations he was given. Because when New Line bought the rights to use the character, as Hollywood likes to do, they like to piecemeal everything. They didn't have the rights to use the mask. So they had to work around that. Ergo, that's how the movie gets written the way it is. You only see Jason in there for all of like 5 minutes or whatever it was. And then at the same time, he was also a big Evil Dead fan. So he figured, logically, how are you gonna have Jason? Like what explains him? He's a fucking Deadite. Let's just go there. Yeah, the whole interview is crazy. Like, you got to watch it. He borrowed the real Necronomicon from Sam Raimi and put it in the movie. So like the one you see in Jason Goes to Hell, that's the Necronomicon. It's not just like, oh, they made a good fake. It's the actual one. So just crazy stuff, like the way he talks about that. And I got a little bit more of an appreciation for it. Kind of like he had his hands cuffed and he made the best one he could. So, and if you really look at it, it goes against some of the stereotypes in slashers. And like, I don't want to steal his thunder, so like, you just watch the interview. If you get that set, listen to him talk about it. And when you hear him talk about it, you're like, it's not the big steamy turd I thought it was. So I like that. I like hearing the stories behind it, and it kind of, I won't say it changes your mind, but it gives you a new perspective. And while, as a fan, you're like, it's not really Friday the 13th. Jason wasn't in it. He's body swapping. What kind of bullshit is that? But you find out why he did it, and then the things that he was doing to push people's buttons. Pretty fascinating.
See, on paper, a movie where Jason is brought back by the Necronomicon sounds like the most incredible fucking horror movie ever made. But what we got was pretty shitty. But to be fair, I don't like most of the Friday the 13th movies anyway. So it might be a me problem more than it is a movie problem. Fair enough. I admit that.
I mean, sure. I mean, there are a few of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies that don't really land for me. I'm not the biggest Dream Child fan. Fuck that movie. Like, just not a big fan of it. Freddy's Dead really leaned too hard on the comedy for me.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot scarier. But I'm also, at the same time, I'm a huge Nightmare 2 fan. Love that fucking movie. It is like, as gay as it is and as intentional as that stuff was, like what it did, and the fact that it made more money than the original Nightmare on Elm Street, like, it tells you something. It tells you that it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But if I had to rank them, it wouldn't be up towards the top of my list, nor would it be at the bottom. It'd probably be right there in the middle. So.
Fair enough. We've made it over 100 episodes in on this podcast without touching Freddy or Jason yet. So we'll get there. When we do get there, we're gonna have a lot to unpack.
Oh, of course.
We have Joel David Moore as Ben, lanky, geeky, recently single walking bummer. Some of Moore's other roles include Dodgeball, Avatar, The Guest, which we've talked about in the past on this podcast, Grandma's Boy, and another of Adam Green's thrillers, Spiral. And Joel David Moore is a decent character actor. I tend to like him in pretty much everything I see him in. He stands out. He's got that, a very unique body shape. He looks like fucking Slender Man. So I definitely, noticed him immediately. And he's good. He's pretty good in this.
Oh yeah, no, he was enjoyable. I definitely wanted him to die like right away, as he's just like this huge boner killer. He's the last person you want to take with you to fucking New Orleans. It's this fucking whiny ass dude who won't shut up about his ex-girlfriend. I was like the biggest fan of Marcus, which is like, come on, dude. We are literally in Titty City and you can't even enjoy them. What is your problem? What is your problem? I've been to New Orleans. Like, you can't not have fun in that town. I'm telling you.
Right on, man. Speaking of Marcus, we have Dion Richmond as Marcus, Ben's best friend. Richmond played Kenny on The Cosby Show, has also appeared in such films as Scream 3, Van Wilder, and Not Another Teen Movie. And he is fucking hysterical in this movie. He's, like you said, he's the buddy who just wants to have fun, who has to he gets guilted into going on this boat trip with his bummer friend.
So I will say that he was a good friend. He could have let him just go, and he could have just gone and, gotten drunk and passed out in the fucking street somewhere with his friends. But he stuck by his buddy. He paid for it, but he stuck by his friend.
Goddamn right he paid for it. Oh, boy. Amara Zaragoza plays Mary Beth under the stage name of Tamara Feldman. She would only play the character once and would be replaced by Danielle Harris in all the sequels. Some of Zaragoza's other roles include recurring roles on the TV shows Dirty Sexy Money and Gossip Girl, but not a lot else beyond TV guest appearances. Probably should have taken the sequel. And do you know why she didn't sign up for Hatchet 2?
No, I just know that she didn't. I think it was like either she didn't want to do it, or she was kind of just like, I don't know, I didn't know they would be making another movie, so like, I'm not sure. I mean, Daniel Harris took it over after that, and there's I mean, I don't think it suffers for it, other than how the movie ends and how Hatchet 2 starts. You're like, unless you're like really just like along for the ride, it is very jarring, because the way the first 3 movies are structured, they literally happen on consecutive days. So when Hatchet 1 ends, Hatchet 2 starts up right as Hatchet 1 ends, and then Hatchet 3 starts after Hatchet 2 ends.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, no, and that's something that only like, you know, Friday the 13th, Halloween tried it. So like it either really works or it doesn't. I did listen today to you and your guys' Halloween 2 episode. So like I heard you guys how you're talking about that whole continuing with the night it happened and all that stuff. So, you know.
We had fun on that one. It was fun just talking about Michael and what he'd be doing between kills. I always thought about that. It's just he's got to be just doing stuff, on his way to murder.
Funny you should say that. So the scene where Loomis is walking out the day after Michael escapes, and the guy that's talking to Loomis is like, how do you know how to drive? It's like, somebody must have been giving him lessons or whatever. Adam Green has been doing short movies every Halloween since he started Arioscope. So he's got like 22 shorts that he's done for the last 22 years, and one of them is literally about a deleted scene where Michael Myers is getting driving lessons.
Oh my god.
And for further fucking inception and all of this, Joel David Moore plays the driving instructor and Kane Hodder plays Michael Myers.
Holy shit, I gotta see that. As soon as we're done here, I'm looking that up. Oh my god.
It's fucking hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. It's really fantastic. Good. Yeah.
Great timing, great connector between last week and this week. Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Mercedes McNabb plays Misty, aspiring porn star and complete dingbat. McNabb is best known for her recurring role as teenage vampire Harmony on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off series Angel. She also appeared in the 1991 Addams Family and its 1993 sequel, Addams Family Values, and she's kind of made a career out of playing just a complete, absolute moron. And who can blame her? I think she's hilarious in this movie.
Oh, she's totally hilarious, and it's actually funny that you brought up Addams Family Values because I just now recognize her from that. I'm like, oh. To be fair, she was, a preteen and didn't have boobs or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah, I recognize her face now, and I'm just like, oh, okay, get it. Yeah, no, she's fucking hilarious. She is like the perfect caricature of the dumb blonde, like just to a T, flawless. I loved it.
I fucking hated her on Buffy so much. I kept waiting for her to die, and it never happened. And then Angel came on, and she was in that, and I'm like, oh, maybe they'll kill her here, and they still fucking didn't. And at least I got to see her die in this.
Yeah, there you go. Finally, delayed gratification.
Hell yeah. Jolie Fiore plays Jenna, the other aspiring porn star. She appears in Hatchet 2, but hasn't done much else beyond TV guest appearances. And I thought she was hilarious too. I thought everyone did a really good job in this.
Yeah. Like this is one of these things where that blend of comedy and horror, like it's played perfectly for me. How she's always joking or like crying about bitching about how she went to NYU and all this shit, but then you find out she actually did go to NYU. She went to Hofstra, which is a big joke because Green went to Hofstra. That's where he went to college. He went to film school in Hofstra. So that's where that comes from. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I do love that scene where they're like, anybody else got any more secrets? And she just starts sobbing. I didn't go to NYU.
Yeah.
Like it fucking matters in here.
Nobody fucking cared in the first place.
My God. Joel Murray plays aspiring porn director Doug Shapiro. Murray had a recurring role on AMC's Mad Men, also appeared in such films as The Artist, Monsters University, Jobs, and the movie I recognized him from, God Bless America.
Oh, fucking love that movie.
I
love that movie.
It's one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen, but one of the most satisfying in a weird way.
Oh, totally. Like Bobcat Goldthwait is an amazing director. Like hearing him, like how he approached things and like the whole genesis for that movie is totally fascinating. If you can dig it up, he was on the Movie Crypt, which is Adam Green's podcast, and he was talking about that. And he also did Willow Creek, which is crazy because have you seen it?
Willow Creek's one of my favorite found footage movies. That movie freaked me out.
So think about that. Think about the personality behind it, and then like what you know him as. But then you're like, holy crap, he just did like a great Bigfoot movie. What the fuck? Yeah, he's amazing. I fucking love that man. He's so smart, so fucking funny, but like will not compromise on what he wants to do. He would fucking, shoot a movie in his garage if he had to, just to make the movie that he wanted to. I give him all the credit for that.
Hell yeah, Bobcat's the man. Did you see his comedy special from a few years ago?
Not one. No, nothing recent.
It was called I think it was called "You Don't Look the Same Either."
Oh yeah, I've seen it, but I haven't like actually watched it. I've just seen like the little poster or whatever on like Amazon or some shit for it.
I tracked it down on YouTube a couple years ago, and it has one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard in stand up. He was at the airport, and some lady walked up to him and said, "I don't mean to insult you, but you look like Bobcat Goldthwait." Oh my god.
That's really fucking good. That's really fucking good. Oh my god.
God damn. Yeah, he's the best. Oh, can't wait. God Bless America is one I definitely want to bring to this podcast because that separates the men from the boys, that movie, especially the baby scene.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can't see, and this is like that's another movie like I would probably put on a list of things. Like if you want to know my personality, like watch this movie. And for me, like I'm pulling the line from South Park. Like either it's all funny or none of it's funny. Like
Yeah,
you can make a joke about anything in the right context. And that movie is so fucking satisfying because I was right there with fucking Joel Murray the entire time. Like everything he did, I was like, yep, I do that. Yep, I do that. Yeah, I'd probably go crazy and drive across country just to go shoot some fucking stupid reality star. Yeah, let's go for it. Go for it.
Oh yeah, to be continued. We will definitely throw that on the schedule at some point. Perry Shen plays Sean, the fake tour guide. Maybe my favorite character in the movie. Just the constant like new revelations over like who he is. It's constantly fucking evolving.
Oh yeah, man. Adam Green gets his mileage out of Perry Shen in all these movies, like crazy, and like the range that he has to play the roles that he does, only a testament to how good of an actor he is. So, because like by the time you get to Victor Crowley, which is Hatchet 4, he's somehow pulled himself like completely away from the two dudes that you thought you knew at the beginning, while still playing an Asian guy and like just hitting all the Asian man jokes and how we all look alike, blah blah blah. But like he actually puts in a lot of like a real like emotional performance at one point in Victor Crowley, and you're just like, damn, this guy's good. I bought the book that they had used in Victor Crowley. It's called I, Survivor, and Adam Green wrote that with another writer named Joe Netter, and it's crazy. Like you just that's how immersed I am in all this, how invested I am in this. I bought this book and I had to read it. It's really good.
That's awesome. And funny considering that, like, I was looking into his IMDb page, and the biggest thing this guy's done is over 260 episodes of General Hospital.
I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. The film also features cameos from Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger, Tony Todd, who played Candyman, and Joshua Leonard, who played Josh in the Blair Witch Project. So I love that Adam Green just brings in these people for brief appearances. Like, he clearly loves everything about horror, and he really just built this movie as it feels like a love letter to the slasher genre.
Yeah, that was part of my review. That's exactly what it is. Oddly enough, he came up with the original idea for it when he was at summer. So tying all this around to slashers and how they're always at summer camp. He had this idea at summer camp, and it just stuck with him for years. And he always wanted to make it, and he was going to make it one way or another. And I'm very, very glad he did.
Gotta love that determination. Hatchet has an IMDb score of 5.7, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 55%. It was an unfortunate box office bomb, only grossing $200,000 on a budget of $1.5 million. Despite this, it has been reclaimed by the horror community as a cult classic and spawned 3 sequels, all of which are available on Amazon Prime if you guys want to binge, which I am certainly going to. All right, so let's talk about this movie. So we open with Robert Englund and Josh from Blair Witch redneck fishing in the bayou. I mean, right from the get-go, that just made me think like this is something special. He's the guy who made this. Like, you don't cast Robert Englund by accident.
Well, I mean, not only that, like, it lends credibility because within the first few minutes you see Robert Englund, and not only that, like, it's showing Robert Englund, giving him a chance to like have some fun. Everybody knows him as Freddy Krueger, and here he is, this fucking cantankerous gator poacher who is calling his son a sissy, and just how he's how his son is not as tough as his sister, all this shit. Which, okay, so there was something that even I didn't know about the character of Mary Beth, and I didn't find this out until later on, and I was kind of like, huh. But and I'm only bringing this up because it kind of like you kind of understand the joke a little bit about what he's calling his son a sissy, is because Mary Beth is a lesbian, and that like that joke really rings me, not because she's a lesbian, but because like she's just actually like this tough badass chick who is not afraid to go toe to toe with Victor Crowley. And I love the way that Adam Green handled it. It was never like hammered over your head or anything. I only heard about it in passing, and I think it was actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it was Danielle Harris has a YouTube show called Common Terror, and the first episode had Adam Green on there, and they were I think they were watching Hatchet or something like that, and they were talking, and she brought it up, and he was just like, yeah, she's lesbian. It wasn't something he wanted to like make obvious or ham-fisted. And I think it's one of these things where people can relate to a character and not understand why, and only when a creator comes out and says, hey, by the way, they're this, they're that, really kind of shows where Adam Green is coming from. The fact that he can put whoever as his characters and they ring true. And yeah, like that whole opening is also kind of like a mini film school, because if you pay attention, the shots where the alligators are like essentially like stock footage. Like they're not anywhere like if you really pay attention, you can see like the differences where the light source is and all this stuff, and like how they're getting played in. Just really shows you like how they went about making this movie. Like by hook or by crook, they were going to do this, and they were going to use every trick at their disposal to suck you into this world. And that beginning just totally throws the hammer down and just says, get ready, because it only gets crazier from here.
Oh yeah, it's a great opening, and it's hilarious. And I had no idea going in that this was a comedy, and it was funny. It was nice, like realizing that as we went along. I'm like, oh, this is supposed to be funny. Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had been so overexposed to a lot of slashers that are either inadvertently funny because some of the jokes are dated, or some of the acting is really bad and you're just laughing at that. It's kind of taking you out of the experience. But this, like, Adam Green knew what he was doing. He knew where he was going to sit this movie. It wasn't going to be just straight up serious, because you can't. Like, everything about this movie is over the top. That shot where his guts are getting thrown against the tree, that became a running gag, not only throughout this movie, but all the other movies after that, to where, like, I think by Victor Crowley, there's just a shot of a tree as Victor Crowley's killing somebody, and you're just waiting because it's coming. It's coming by this point. And then they just, like, hangs for just a few seconds and then just gets annihilated with blood and guts. And you're just like, yeah. So, yeah. Adam Green knows his audience for this shit.
For sure. I mean, Victor Crowley himself, for me anyway, is sort of like a backwoods hybrid between Jason and Leatherface. I mean, he's every stereotype in the book, but it works because of what Adam Green's trying to accomplish here. He's not trying to make the next great slasher film that's wholly original. He's having fun. And we get to have fun by watching him have fun. It's great.
Oh, yeah. So when he was, like, trying to shop this around and get it made, he was getting turned down. And in my review, I threw the lines, if it wasn't a remake or from Japan, it wasn't going to get made. That was actually shit that was said to him. People that he was submitting the script to, they were like, yeah, we're not doing this. If it's not a remake, if it's not something from Japan, nobody's going to see this.
Wow.
And you're just like, you hear that now and you're like, how the fuck? Like, that proves to you the people that sit in these ivory towers don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, it's a slasher movie. You don't have to, like, think about that. Give them the money. You know what you're gonna get. Go for it. Have fun.
God, if he had just been like, 10 years after this, he could have sold this thing to Blumhouse and made millions. Like, they, that's the exact company that would buy something like this and know exactly what Adam Green was trying to do. He was ahead of his time. He was, at a time when, like, literally everything coming out of the horror community was remakes are from Japan. The early 2000s, that's all it was. God, that sucks. Yep.
But I mean, like I said, he dug in and he was like, no, I want to make this movie. And he went for it. So,
Hell yeah. And what he does do with the horror is fucking crazy. There are makeup effects. There's gore in this movie I've never seen before. I mean, where he, like, when Victor Crowley rips the woman's head open, through jaw first, I audibly went, what the fuck? I had never seen that before. And I'm still thinking about it.
Not only that, like, he stressed about practical effects, doing everything in camera, like, everything coordinated. Like, he had everything about this movie, like, planned out in his head. He had been wanting to make this movie for so long. He had everything in his head ready to go. And, like, I watched the making of, because I'm a dork and I wanted to find out about this shit. Like, that whole setup is just, like, camera tricks to get to the point where it starts out with the real actress and Kane Hodder, and then by the time the camera spins, now the trick's in play, and whap whap. Yeah, it's so fucking bananas. The fact that you had this movie start with a guy getting his spine ripped out, and then you've got this lady getting her fucking head open to where she looks like a South Park Canadian. You're just like, God damn it. Like, this movie is just, it's relentless, but you're cheering for this shit. You're not going like, oh, you're like, yes, fuck yeah. And you can only do that if you set the tone right away that this movie is going to be outrageous. You know that.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, this is not like Hereditary. This is not edge of your seat nightmares. This is, over the top gore that you just can't help but cackle at. And those are so much fun to watch, those kinds of movies. And there's only like some people just don't get it. And I love watching horror, like those kinds of films with people who don't get it because they're so fucking horrified. And then they look at you and you're laughing and they become even more horrified and they don't really know what to do. And you're just laughing because they don't know what to do. It's a whole like endless cycle of just like outrageous shit.
Oh yeah, I fully enjoy watching movies like this with people who are too stuffy and can't have fun and take themselves too seriously and their art too seriously. I'm just like, no, 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 no. A movie I always watch during Halloween is The Abominable Dr. Fives.
Oh yeah.
Because I love Vincent Price so much, and that movie is, even though it's played up very straight because of a lot of the British actors you have in it, like Vincent Price is hamming it up throughout the entire thing. The whole premise of the movie is ridiculous. And I think if that movie was remade today, you would have to find somebody who can toe that line between madness and comedy. And that's where this movie is. It's mad as fuck, but it is funny as hell too.
I love that we have a place on this podcast to talk about like really serious, frightening horror movies like The Brood and The Witch, but then also get to just laugh our asses off at Hatchet. Like, I love that we don't have a specific zone. We just do whatever the fuck.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can, because horror is such a huge umbrella, and there's so many stops along the spectrum that you can be serious and you can use it as allegory, like Cronenberg and Romero, but you can also go on the other end of it and be Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, Evil Dead style, and still satisfy both ends. You can be weird and arty like Argento, and Fulci, which is Fulci, especially, like if you've never watched anything by him, it's really hard to describe his movies because they're not very conventional in their storytelling. There's really, like, the plots are very bare. It's really just an exercise in, like, it's almost like stream of consciousness, like gore set piece to gore set piece to gore set piece with like this bitchin' ass music, and it's a total experience, and it's unlike anything you would see. But the fact that like Italy was doing those kinds of things is brilliant, and it's another color in the rainbow of horror movies.
Well, and also we get to explore different cultures' versions of horror. Like one of my favorite episodes we've done so far was the back-to-back we did on Audition and Itchy the Killer. Because that really got to zoom into Japanese horror and just see like how fucked up are they, and how specifically Takashi Miike. And it was really fun to explore that culture for a bit and see, because Audition had been on my like no list for years because I was terrified that it was gonna fuck me up. And I watched it and I was like, this isn't bad. I must be really desensitized. I was actually more surprised at that. Like, I've seen so much shit, this isn't even bothering me.
No, well, I mean, Audition is such a sucker punch, though. Like, it lures you in, thinking it's one thing, and then by the end of it, you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? If you think that movie really had you going, go to.
Yeah,
get you.
That's what I've heard. That's a big one. My dad's a big Miike fan, so he's given me a lot of recommendations. And that was right, like that was one of them. Rainy Dog was another. I've got a lot of homework to do with Miike.
Yeah, Bird People in China is a complete departure. That's almost like a fairy tale movie. Happiness is the category musical, and mixes like different styles of filmmaking. Miike is a fucking madman. I love him so much.
Killer. He's what I've seen so far, I've really enjoyed. So what is your favorite, if you had to pick one, what is your favorite moment from Hatchet?
I don't like there like there's so many little moments that are like really like the humor is really gets me in this movie especially. Um I would probably have to say like the my favorite moment is probably the old lady getting her head ripped in half. Like that moment for me, it's just like I have found my movie. I love this movie. Um because like if you try to like really think about this movie, like the whole concept behind Victor Crowley and who he is and why he's doing what he's doing, and it's just like, yeah, I've been here before, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just kind of there to like set him and kind of make him real. Also, I think one of my favorite cameos in this is John Carl Buechler, who special effects artist, helped to do the special effects for Hatchet along with Robert Pendergraft, and he also directed Kane Hodder in Friday 7. So there's another connection. Um, and his little cameo as Jack Cracker is fucking hilarious because you're
He's
just
Jack
sitting there
Cracker.
like, yeah, he's yelling at him, don't go in here, don't go in here. And he's like, oh, who is that? Just old Jack Cracker. He's a piss drinking gator poacher. And he just fucking passed by him. He's like, you're all gonna die. And he's fucking drinking his own piss. Oh yeah, so good. And that joke gets carried over into the beginning of Hatchet 2. And yeah, it's so yeah, god damn it. Like that part is really funny to me. It's so good. But like that's where this movie really shines, especially like some people would probably think it's overkill, with the amount of like cameos and like all these other nods to, it's like, oh, there's, like the whole tangent I just went on about John Carl Buechler and his connection to Kane Hodder and all this other stuff. But like it it works. Like everybody there is there for the, in service of this story and making it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like that lady getting her head peeled is just it's great. Just a giant exclamation point on this movie.
It's so fucking effortless. He's just like he's opening a box. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The whole Jack Cracker thing, I think what really made that funny, like the best thing about that is that the guy telling the story of Jack Cracker, you already have an idea that this guy's full of shit about everything. So you think like, oh, he's just lying so that he doesn't get caught. You think this guy might be a cop, but then he goes by and he's just drinking his piss. I love it. It was all true.
Yeah. He's actually telling the truth about that. I don't know if you noticed this either, and this is another running gag in a franchise of running gags. Adam Green is in the original lineup of buddies as they're walking. And he is in the beginning of Hatchet 2. You find out what happened to him because he's literally passed out on the street in the beginning of Hatchet 2. It was just like the steady stream of Adam Green being in his movie, doing his best Hitchcock impression, cameoing in his own movies.
That's awesome. My favorite moment in Hatchet is probably Tony Todd's cameo as Reverend Zombie. Because the way that's played is so smart and it's so hilarious, and you never fucking see him again in the movie. It's like the buildup of, oh, some mysterious thing happened. Oh, a lot of people died. What happened, Reverend Zombie? And he's like, well, this kid, his leg was dangling off the side, and he sued me for negligence. I was laughing so hard.
It's just funny because like he goes from having this shitty fucking Caribbean accent to just like by the end of it he breaks it completely, and then when they're getting ready to leave, it's like, don't walk on the sidewalk. You're just like he can't let it go. He's got to stay in character. And yeah, like by the second one he really takes a good role in Hatchet 2. Totally like, peels off the character, and now he's just, this dude who grew up in the area. It's really good. It's really good. I like just marathon the first 3. You'll be good to go. It's good time.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. Once I have some time And the way we're going to be doing the episodes from here on in, I am going to have like random pockets of me time, so I'll be able to watch the Hatchet series then. Here are some Filmgazm facts for Hatchet. Number one, we already brought this up. Writer director Adam Green created a no CGI rule for post production. Only CGI was used to remove on screen wires and camera setups, but he did go all out with practical effects, and it really does show. I mean, his practical effects are off the fucking chart. Really well done. Number two, the t-shirt with the odd-looking smiley face on it is the logo for Newbury Comics, a New England chain that sells CDs, DVDs, and comic books. Adam Green grew up in Massachusetts and would buy his horror movies and action figures from there. So he included their logo on I think it's Ben's shirt.
Yep. Yeah. It pops up in the subsequent movies too. It never goes away.
That's awesome. I love, throwing some love to your local horror movie store. That's pretty badass.
Oh yeah.
And number three, if you watch the first three Hatchet movies in a row without opening and end credits, it would be one uninterrupted storyline revolving around a few days. Awesome. Sam Raimi did the same thing with Evil Dead.
Yep.
So cool. So let's talk about the sequels a bit. There are three sequels. First up is 2010's Hatchet 2, which sees Mary Beth escape Victor Crowley's clutches and return to his swamp with an army of hunters looking to kill him for good. So you've seen all of them. So how does Hatchet 2 stack up?
I mean, I like it. It's it's kind of like a tonally like different movie. It's kind of got a little bit more of an action slant in it, because the whole posse that comes in there, it's just all a bunch of dudes with guns, but it doesn't lose the charm of the movies as you come to know them. There's still bananas gore in it. There's one scene that when you see it, you'll probably know which one I'm talking about. It always has me laughing whenever I see it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You just got to watch it, and then get back to me. And I mean, there's cameos galore in that one as well. There's Lloyd Kaufman shows up at one point. He's making jokes about that. God, I think when they were doing some kind of live stream or something, they were watching the Hatchet movies, and I made a comment to Joe Lynch, who had worked with Lloyd on a couple Trauma movies, and I was like, Lloyd showed up for the cookies, didn't he? It's like, well, yeah, of course he did. Like, Lloyd will always show up if you offer him free food. So yeah, he was in that. Tony Todd's in there. R.A. Mieloff, who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3, I think. He is in there. He plays one of the mercenary dudes. Yeah, it's fun. That movie, I think. I think Zach Galligan is in Hatchet 2. He plays the sheriff. Fucking Sid Haig, I think, is in Hatchet 2. And Caroline Williams is also in there. Stretch from Chainsaw 2. She's in it. And like it kind of further expands on the backstory of, Thomas Crowley, Victor's dad, and like the whole circumstances that were just barely hinted at in the first one, which Kane Hodder actually, like, he does some acting in there. It's pretty good. Gets his chance to shine a little bit. You find out a little bit more about, why this is still persisting after the first movie, because you think he's supposed to be fucking dead. Like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. Third one, which is actually not directed by Adam Green. It's directed by a guy who was a camera operator. His name is escaping me right now. But he directed the third one because I think Adam Green was doing something else at the time and he couldn't direct it. But he was, still trying to be as involved as possible. Yeah. And that one is really just far out there. It just keeps going. And there's like this little running thread in there where Perry Shin went from being the brothers in the first two to by the third one, he's playing a paramedic who is like the only survivor at the end of part 3. OJ style gets framed and has the rest of his life in between Hatchet 3 and Victor Crowley to essentially be framed for a murder he didn't commit. He was known as this savage serial killer, but they never had any evidence to convict him, and blah 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 blah. That's where the book comes in. Victor Crowley, the fascinating thing about this is Adam Green made it in secret. Nobody knew about it. And I don't remember where he was. He showed up under the guise of a 10th anniversary screening of Hatchet. And he surprised the audience with a brand new Hatchet movie. Everybody was blown away by it. Victor Crowley is crazy, just crazy. And it's got, Adam Green and Joe Lynch make cameos as the pilots of a plane. In there, they're funny. Felissa Rose, Angela from Sleepaway Camp, she's in it. Tiffany Shepis, who's been in 5,000 horror movies, she's in there. Brian Quinn from Impractical Jokers, who is kind of like a friend of Adam Green's, he's in it. And like it, so good. The fact that like you could figure out another way to like keep this story going and make it fun and to still do something. He literally shot parts of this where he has his production company, like his whole studio at, where his offices are. He had sets built and shot right there. Like he doesn't make these movies to make money. He said it before, he makes these because he loves them. He knows the fans love them. And that I was totally blown away when that came out. Watched it, loved it. Obviously, I own it. I bought it straight from Adam Green because I wanted to give my money straight to this guy who was given so much. Frozen is a movie that kind of shows he can work restrained. He is a guy that knows what he wants. He went for it with that, and it's this movie that people regard as like this savage, brutal movie, but there's literally like if you watch that and you're like, the guy that made Hatchet made this, there's no fucking way, but he did, totally did. So yeah, I mean, he's got some range. He could do a lot of other things. I definitely encourage you to watch the short movies that he does. Check out, he's got a YouTube channel for Aeriescope. Check it out. All the Halloween shorts are up there. Holliston, if you've never seen that, it's on Shudder. Watch it. Fucking funny. Because originally, when he was coming out to LA, he had a movie that he made literally for $400. And he made that while he was working for Time Warner. And he and Will Barrett, who worked with him at Time Warner, they shot this movie. And they used a lot of music, which is why he can't release it. He used a lot of music that he didn't have the rights to, so he couldn't release it. It's called Coffee and Donuts, and it is what Holliston ended up being. So yeah, like that show, loads of cameos from people in the horror industry, lots of jokes. Dee Snider plays a character in there. And Dee Snider's fucking hilarious in that show. They got 2 seasons made on FearNet before it went under, and Shudder picked it up to stream it. And I'm hoping that people binge the shit out of it, and Shudder will put out a 3rd season. He already has the 3rd season written, pretty much. Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, I still watch shows. I still watch it to watch Dave Brockie. I'm a huge Guar fan, like I said before, and to see him to be there and like have a chance to like actually be on a TV show and stuff. It's really awesome. and the fact that like Adam Green was a huge fan of Dave's and they became friends. Like it's just all these weird little circles that started forming, and he's a really cool guy. I really like Adam Green. I admire that guy a lot, and yeah, I'd probably cry if I saw him or something. I don't
Well, after learning about him and like everything that went into this film and everything he does for the franchise and for his fans, yeah, I definitely like much respect to Adam Green. I'm definitely gonna look up the rest of his stuff. He's a guy I'd like to see all of his work for sure.
Yeah. One I didn't even mention, Digging Up the Marrow. He did. It's like a found footage movie, and it's all about monsters. And he worked with an artist, Alex Pardee, who his art is like some of the most beautiful, but like at the same time like nightmare fuel. Um, awesome stuff. And it was like essentially kind of like Adam Green doing a found footage movie with bits of Nightbreed in there. Ray Wise is in it, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. You got to watch that too.
Killer. More fuel for the book.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I give Hatchet an 8. It was way better than I expected. Had me laughing my ass off, and the gore effects were top notch. Yeah, it's a solid flick.
Yeah, I think I gave it an 8 originally, and the more I talk about it and the more I think about it, I could probably say that I probably would add it to my growing list of tens. Just because it's so fun. I never get tired watching it. It's always something that if I know somebody hasn't seen it and I've just met them, I'm like, you haven't seen it? No, we're watching. I don't care what the hell you're doing. We're watching that right now. Like it's just one of those movies that like you have to share with somebody, because if they love slasher movies, I don't see how somebody can't not love it. Like maybe I could understand Austin maybe not loving it, only because I know like kind of where he lies, but the fact that he was even speaking about how much he loved it, like that just to me further proves just how great this movie is.
Oh yeah, it's one that any horror fan worth his salt will find something to like about. And yeah, I can see this, 20, 30 years from now definitely being listed among, early 21st century classics. Killer. That was fun. Thanks for joining me today, Josh. This was a good one.
Oh yeah, man. I'm fucking happy to be here. I talk about shit like this all day long. You just tell me when and where, man.
Next week, Austin is returning for a special tribute episode to Sir Sean Connery, who passed away in his sleep on Halloween at the age of 90. In his memory, we will be discussing the original 1962 spy thriller classic Dr. No, the film that started the James Bond franchise and gave Sean Connery a career that made him one of the most respected talents in Hollywood for decades. It's going to be a bittersweet episode, but we'll definitely dig into his side of the 007 legacy and some of his other movies that we adore. So look forward to that next week on the Filmgazm podcast. Don't miss that, or our Aaron Sorkin extravaganza on Oscar Sunday. And remember, if you know what's good for you, stay the hell out of Victor Crowley's swamp. And I'll see you next Wednesday.